ESPN Analyst just called out the WNBA for not hiring any black head coaches this season. The league hired 3 coaches with NBA ties, all of them not black women, and now there's a huge conversation happening about who really paved the way for the league. The timing couldn't be worse for the WNBA's image. Have you ever watched an organization make hiring decisions that made you question what they actually value? Drop your thoughts in the comments. So, Chiney Ogwumike from ESPN just broke her silence about the WNBA's coaching carousel this offseason, and she's not holding back. The league just went through 5 head coaching hires, and 0 of them were black women. In fact, 3 of the 5 have direct NBA ties, and now there's a massive conversation happening about diversity, opportunity, and who really built the foundation of the WNBA. Let's start with what triggered all of this. The New York Liberty just hired Chris DeMarco, a longtime Golden State Warriors assistant coach, to be their new head coach. This came after they fired Sandy Brondello, who had just led the team to a championship. Yes, you read that right. They won the championship and still fired the coach. That decision alone had people questioning what was happening, but the hire that replaced her is what really set things off. Chris DeMarco is highly decorated. He's been with the Warriors since 2012, been part of 4 championship teams, worked with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and other elite players. From a basketball perspective, this is a strong hire. The Warriors are one of the most successful franchises in basketball history, and DeMarco was a key part of that system. So, on paper, the Liberty got someone with championship pedigree and high-level experience. But here's the problem. This marks the 3rd WNBA head coaching hire this offseason with NBA ties. Becky Hammon already coaches the Aces. Natalie Nakase is with the Golden State Valkyries. Now DeMarco with the Liberty. Add in coaches like Nate Tibbetts, Tyler Marsh, who didn't work out in Chicago, and others, and you have a clear pattern. The WNBA is looking to the NBA for its coaching talent instead of promoting from within, and that's where Chiney's criticism comes in. She pointed out that entering last season, Noelle Quinn was the only black female head coach in the entire WNBA. Now that count is at 0, not 1. That's a problem, especially for a league that's built on the backs of black women who've been playing and promoting this sport for decades. Chiney broke it down with pros and cons. The pros: the ultimate goal should be for people to realize basketball is just basketball, whether it's NBA or WNBA. For a long time, being associated with the NBA was seen as the standard for meaningful opportunity in basketball. So having NBA coaches come to the WNBA could elevate the perception of the league. Plus, with WNBA coaches now making over $1 million, the league is becoming a real destination for coaching talent. But the cons are significant. It's getting increasingly hard for aspiring coaches and former WNBA players to advance from within. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Is the WNBA racist? That's a complicated question. The league itself was built primarily by black women. The majority of players are black. The history and culture of the WNBA is deeply connected to black female athletes. So when the league makes 5 coaching hires and 0 of them are black women, it raises questions about priorities and values. But here's where it gets messy. Some people are trying to connect this to Caitlin Clark and the increased attention white players are getting in the league. And that's where the conversation gets uncomfortable and probably unfair. Caitlin didn't make these coaching decisions. She's not responsible for the WNBA's hiring practices, but her popularity has coincided with a shift in how the league operates, and some people see that as connected. The reality is that Caitlin Clark brought unprecedented attention to the WNBA. Viewership exploded. Attendance skyrocketed. Merchandise sales went through the roof. Whether people want to admit it or not, she's been the biggest driver of mainstream interest in the league in its entire history. But that doesn't mean the league should abandon the people who built it in the first place. The argument some people are making is that the WNBA is chasing mainstream success at the expense of the black women who created and sustained the league for decades. That when the money and attention finally showed up, the league started hiring NBA coaches instead of promoting the women who've been grinding in the WNBA system for years. That's the criticism, and it's not entirely unfair. But there's another side to this. The WNBA is a business, and businesses make decisions based on what they think will lead to success. If ownership groups believe NBA coaches bring credibility, tactical knowledge, and connections that will help their teams win, they're going to hire NBA coaches. That's not necessarily racism, it's capitalism. They're trying to win championships and make money. The question is whether that strategy is short-sighted, because by constantly looking outside the league for coaching talent, the WNBA is sending a message that its own people aren't good enough. That's demoralizing for anyone who's been working their way up through the WNBA system, grinding as an assistant coach, hoping for a head coaching opportunity that keeps going to someone from outside. Christy sides with the Fever, Cheryl Reeve with the Lynx. These are coaches who've been in the WNBA for years and have proven they can succeed. But they're becoming the exception rather than the rule. The new trend is hiring from the NBA or college, and that trend is squeezing out the pipeline of WNBA lifers who expected to eventually get head coaching opportunities. Chiney also mentioned former players like Swin Cash, Taj McWilliams-Franklin, and others who could be great coaches but aren't getting opportunities. These are people who played at the highest level, understand the WNBA culture, and could relate to players in ways that NBA assistants might not be able to. But they're not even getting serious consideration. The New York Liberty situation is particularly frustrating because they literally just won the championship. Sandy Brondello coached that team to a title, and they still replaced her. The official reason was that ownership wanted to go in a different direction, but the timing suggests they saw an opportunity to get an NBA-connected coach and took it regardless of recent success. Sabrina Ionescu reportedly reached out to Steph Curry during the hiring process to get his thoughts on DeMarco. That shows she was involved in the decision, which makes sense since she's the face of the franchise. But it also shows that the process was focused on NBA connections rather than looking at qualified WNBA candidates. Now here's the part that's going to make some people uncomfortable. Part of the reason the WNBA is hiring NBA coaches is because they think it will attract more mainstream casual fans. Fans who watch the NBA but haven't paid attention to the WNBA. By hiring coaches with NBA credentials, the league is trying to signal that the WNBA is just as legitimate and sophisticated as the NBA. But that strategy inherently devalues the WNBA's own history and the people who built it. It suggests that WNBA experience alone isn't enough, that you need NBA validation to be taken seriously. That's insulting to everyone who's been grinding in the WNBA for years, and it's especially insulting to black women who've been the foundation of this league since day one. The racial component can't be ignored. When a league built primarily by black women suddenly starts hiring mostly white or male coaches with NBA ties, instead of promoting black women from within, that's a problem. It doesn't necessarily mean there's explicit racism happening, but it does mean the league is prioritizing something other than the people who built the foundation. And let's be real about the Caitlin Clark effect. Her popularity has brought new fans, new money, and new attention to the league. That's great. But if the result of that attention is that the league starts making decisions that exclude or devalue the black women who created the culture, that's not progress. That's just replacing one set of priorities with another. Some people are arguing that Caitlin paved the way for the WNBA's current success, and in terms of mainstream attention and viewership, there's truth to that. But the actual way was paved decades ago by players like Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, Cynthia Cooper, and countless others who played for years when nobody was watching, when salaries were terrible, when the league was constantly on the verge of folding. So when Chiney says, "I hope we never forget who helped pave the way," she's reminding everyone that the WNBA didn't start with Caitlin Clark's Iowa highlights going viral. It started with black women who built something from nothing and kept it alive through decades of struggle. And now that the league is finally getting attention and money, those same women are being pushed aside in favor of NBA assistants. The coaching carousel this offseason included the Liberty hiring DeMarco, the Valkyries hiring Nakase, the Sky bringing in Tyler Marsh, who was a disaster, and others. The pattern is clear. Teams are looking outside the WNBA for coaching talent instead of developing and promoting from within. And the result is that former players and longtime assistants are getting shut out. There are talented coaches working as assistants right now who should be getting head coaching opportunities, but when teams keep hiring from the NBA or college, those assistants are stuck. And if you're a young black woman thinking about coaching as a career, you're watching this happen and realizing the path to a head coaching job might not exist for you. That's the systemic problem. It's not just about this season's hires, it's about the message being sent to everyone in the WNBA ecosystem. The message is that WNBA experience isn't valued as highly as NBA connections, that being a great player or a dedicated assistant coach in the WNBA isn't enough. You need outside validation to get promoted. And maybe the most frustrating part is that some of these NBA hires haven't even been successful. Tyler Marsh crashed and burned in Chicago. Other coaches with NBA backgrounds have struggled to adjust to the WNBA because the WNBA is different, the strategy is different, the culture is different, the challenges are different. Someone who's been in the WNBA for years understands those differences in ways an NBA assistant might not. So is the WNBA racist? That's probably not the right question. The better question is whether the WNBA is making decisions that harm the black women who built and sustained the league for decades. And based on this off-season's coaching hires, the answer seems to be yes. Whether that's intentional racism or just short-sighted business decisions doesn't really matter to the people being harmed by it. So an ESPN analyst called out the WNBA for not hiring any black female head coaches this season, and the conversation has exposed some uncomfortable truths about who the league values now that mainstream attention has arrived.